Well, this is a different video from normal, isn't it? So I'm gonna depart from the usual 52-week challenge for Instagram, and today we're gonna build a table, a work table with wheels with a scorched top and resin over it. So let's get moving. So the special thing about this is that I actually hand cut and hand marked everything. There were no chop saws or anything like that for perfect 90 degrees. So rather than do the traditional 245 degrees to make a 90 degree, which was a little more difficult for me than straight cuts, but still perfectly doable with an angle grinder by hand, I decided to make a straight cut on one beam, and then I would cut basically 3 sides off of the tube for a 1-inch section like you see here. Then I would simply weld all the way around, because 1, I wanted to try something different, and 2, I needed to practice welding. I decided to add center supports so that I could add the wheels on the bars here. And it works out perfectly because my future welder that I bought fits perfectly onto those tracks, so I can roll it around with my table. I made some brackets for the wheels out of some 1/8-inch steel that was literally just laying in my backyard. Here's the before and the after. They turned out pretty nice. I had to use automotive lug nuts for the swivel casters that I bought at Harbor Freight because they didn't have the nuts with them, and believe it or not, the hardware stores did not have what I needed. And upon drilling holes in the brackets for these things, I broke the drill bit. So do not use a cheap drill bit because they do not work very well. Hey, it rolls, nice. And I coated the whole thing with like a semi-gloss black. So I actually scorched this whole thing, and I could have used a propane torch, but that's just not fun, is it? So I opted for my flamethrower instead, and by flamethrower, I mean my ghetto flamethrower. And I found it really interesting actually, because I guess all the oils leak out of the wood, and it's hydrophobic once you burn it. Next, I made an angle steel trim for the top of the table so I wouldn't have the wood exposed. So I'm going to measure out equal parts of resin and hardener. I actually only need a little bit for the first coat because this first coat is only to 1, to seal up the wood, and 2, it's to seal up the gaps where I missed with the liquid nails on the steel trim. So it'll be sealed up on the sides and it won't leak down. If I had tried to pour all the resin at once, it likely would have leaked out onto the garage floor, and I'm glad that I did the small amount first because that's exactly what happened. It dripped. Now that the first coat's on, we're going to pour the second coat. Now this is a bigger coat, but it's still under 1/8 of an inch. And here it is done. I really like the way it turned out. It's actually quite useful. I've rebuilt a couple carburetors on it so far, and it's now holding all the parts for a Volkswagen Bug. Man, doesn't it shine in the sun though. Look at this. Well, that's it. I hope you enjoyed this build. I look forward to doing many more in the future. And as usual, you be good while I'm gone,